my daughter's birthday.
Bitches are starting to see it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Who Pushed Helen podcast, a deep dive into Big Brother lore. I'm your host, Emily.
And I'm your host, Sam.
And today we're kind of wrapping up season 2, finishing with some of our final thoughts and how the season finished out.
I don't think there's anything more epic in reality competitive shows than the final weeks of Big Brother season 2. And I think that's really saying something, considering that I feel like in modern Big Brother seasons, the end is always kind of the most boring part. Especially in recent years, there's been dominant alliances. You know exactly who's going home, who's staying, who's going to choose whom, and who wins the game if they go to jury. Season 2 is a mixed bag. And these final weeks, we have terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. We have the very first tie that happens in Big Brother. We have another argument about race via Monica and Nicole. Like, there's a lot to unpack in these final weeks.
For sure. And setting the tone for how we're going to view the end of reality shows, specifically the end of Big Brother moving forward every time. I think 2 truly was the blueprint, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So where we left off, they all fought over peanut butter. And then we have a Hardy HOH, which I don't think we'll spend a lot of time on. I feel like he actually did what was in his best interest, which was ultimately send out Bunky. Do you think that was the move, or do you think Dr.Will should have been the move?
I mean, right. In retrospect, I think it's easy to look back and say it would have been Dr.Will. I think at the time, with the knowledge that Hardy had, I think that might have been what made the most sense. But I think in terms of his game and his win equity, which I do think Hardy had a solid amount of at that point, I think sending Will would have been, A, that obviously gets out the person who is the eventual winner, but B, I think adds a point to his resume of, this is what I did, this was this huge person in the house. And so I think realistically Will was probably the right move, but he also did not have a full picture of information at the time. So
yeah, it's really hard, that HOH specifically, because for Nicole, she wanted out Monica, which made complete sense, because I agree with you. If Monica's final 2, Monica wins Big Brother season 2. And so I really respected Nicole's gameplay that week, but ultimately she could not convince Hardy, which, in Hardy's defense, I do think that with the knowledge that he has, Bunky was the best, and also the best move for him. And also Bunky kept coming in second in every comp. Like, bro, if you know you're gonna lose, just like try to make it seem like you're less of a threat, please.
Right.
Like, these food comps, he's like a machine on. And that was one of the big reasons Hardy sent him packing, was he was like, dude, he's like a competition beast if you let him be. And I can't play in the next HOH. And I think Bunky would have held on to those keys for dear life.
And especially when you're running up to the end and you know that those final comps are the most crucial. It's not that Bunky was necessarily some comp beast, but he could have been, and you want to eliminate whatever shot of that threat that there is at the end. So,
well, and especially because they were so fixated on that, the final 3 HOH, which obviously, or final 4 HOH, excuse me. But yeah, ultimately they do the back and forth, they do the waffling. But ultimately, Nicole decides to vote out Bunky, and Monica votes out Will, which gives us the very first Big Brother tie. And it comes down to our very own Hardy Hill. And he kicks Bunky to the curb. And I gotta say, it's with good reason. I think Bunky could have won Big Brother Season 2 if he had more of a game player mindset. Right? He really lacked that strategic manipulation piece that needs to happen in Big Brother.
And to be fair, none of them really had that at the time. And I think that's where we get into the conversation when people talk about Will. It's like, oh, he set the tone. But it's also, you have to compare to what the situation was at the time, where there was no blueprint. So, of course, everything felt fantastic and great because there was no precedent. So any amount of gameplay, I think, in retrospect, comparing to what we know now and comparing at the time, of course it seemed like it was this huge phenomenal thing, when in reality, like, was he just the only one? He wasn't the only one playing, but he was one of the only ones at that point.
Well, and with this like moral superiority that BB2 had in the house, right? That aura of honesty and truth and things like that. I actually think that that moral compass is what lost Nicole the game. And we'll get to that in the jury segment. But first, we got to talk about the key comp. The infamous endurance HOH. We have Nicole, Monica, and Will holding on to these keys. It's very simple. Whomever lets go of the key is out. Whoever has the key wins. But it's not that simple because of banner planes. So this is finally the big moment, the biggest moment of the entire season, the biggest HOH of Nicole's entire run in Big Brother, and a banner plane goes up about Dr. Will and Nicole in a hot tub.
And we've done a little bit more talking on banner planes in earlier episodes, but I cannot imagine being in this high pressure moment where you're trying to keep all of your focus on something. Like, being in the Big Brother house and that happening at any time, I think would be psychologically damaging and you would be struggling. But that happening in the middle of such an important competition where you literally have no escape, I think is truly diabolical.
Yeah. I rewatched it again today, like this morning, and I have a question for you. In your opinion, did that banner plane lose Nicole the competition? Like the HOH comp?
I realistically, I don't think she was going to win anyways. Like,
Okay.
it may have. I think in the end, it wouldn't have been her regardless. So, I mean, maybe it helps to say that that's what it was for her or for whoever else. I think realistically, she probably would not have been the ultimate winner. But
I gotta say though, for such a tense HOH, it is so funny that the second they're like, all right, whoever lets go of their key can get a surprise. And Dr. Will's like, oh, this is my this is my time. Monica, you're not gonna put me up, obviously. Like, we're Gucci. They make a quick deal. And then the prize is the giant peanut butter that they utilized in the previous comp. Truly, though, imagine being Hardy and Nicole, and up until this HOH in this moment, you're running the game week by week. You get out in the most crucial HOH of the season, and the only person that you can rely on is someone who has the name Evil in their nickname. And I can just see them in the house, like, feeling that pressure, feeling that overwhelmness of, like, we may have just lost this game, mourning the game they played, and for Nicole, mourning her marriage. And while they are trying to process the possibility that this is the end of their game, Dr. Will is outside throwing around a tub of peanut butter and laughing and giggling and having the absolute time of his life as they are inside just mournful of this entire experience. And
which also, in retrospect, what a wild thing to be banking on when Will had obviously not done anything in comps all season, and that was his whole MO. Even if you didn't realize that was his MO, what track record does he have to make you have any faith that even when it's down to that few number of people, that there's anything he could do or would choose to do? Like, what in their brains was like, oh yeah, I mean, that's a good bet. Be for real.
I know, literally. It's literally like walking up to a reactive dog and trying to pet it, even though the owner's like, please don't pet this dog, is going to bite you.
Exactly.
And then being shocked when it does, right? But it's just such an unserious moment to him, which is like such a juxtaposition for like the tenseness that's happening inside the house, where Hardy and Nicole are like Nicole's having a panic attack. Hardy is like realizing, like, oh shit, I bet on the wrong horse. Like, this is the moment I'm like, he knew he was done. And And then there's just Dr. Will living it up in the backyard, like flipping over a plastic peanut butter yard. Like he knew he won the game at this point. Monica wins the HOH. Super happy for her. Like well deserved. She really, really had a shot of winning this, honestly. And she puts up Hardy and Nicole. Pretty obvious nominations. But it's the conversations that happen this week I find really fascinating, specifically between Nicole and Will, right? Because Nicole is like beyond mad that he, again, like threw a comp. She now realizes he's been throwing every single comp. Like it's all coming together, but all at the same time, she's worried that her husband's going to divorce her for having an affair with the guy that she's currently mad at, who she just realized really, really is that dog, that reactive dog.
Yeah.
Like you got bit. But she's kind of scolding him throughout the week. And one conversation I thought was interesting is, she said she's yelling at him and he says, well, you and Hardy are a duo. If it was between me and Hardy, you would send me home. And she's like, yeah, but we're honest about it. We're honest. And he goes, yeah, that's how you play this game. I'm not honest. That's not how I play. I'm not honest at all. And it was in that conversation that I saw exactly why Nicole lost Big Brother season 2. Yeah. And that is she has held herself above being like, I've played a completely honest game. When people who are sitting on the jury based on your own hand are like, absolutely not. Like, own it. Like, you also are a snake, and if you can't say that you are, then you're not really as honest as you're portraying yourself to be.
And I think that is something we see for years to come, both in Big Brother and Survivor, honestly. Like games that are truly lost because people might have made the moves, but if you're at the end game and you can't own up to it, either A, because you really weren't that aware, which is the case sometimes. Like, yes, you were the person doing the things, but if you weren't thinking through the why, you can't explain it. Or B, because you're trying to portray yourself as some like stand up whatever person, and that means not owning up to all of these things that you did that might have pissed people off. What game do you have to show for it if you can't advocate for yourself in that way? And so I think that was something that we saw right from the get-go, and it happened here, and I think still happens, in a lot of these shows today.
So I was gonna ask you actually, what do you think of that? I don't know if strategy is the right word, but what do you think of that mindset of the people who do go on these competitive reality shows with the intention of playing like the loyal game, the honest game, the faithful game?
I think 10 years ago, that was ridiculous. I think with the way that juries typically assess things now in current times, especially in Big Brother, I don't think it's as wild as we as super fans might like to think that it is, because juries look at things a lot differently now. And it's something that Dan has come out and said a lot. He's like, I don't think I could ever really succeed in modern Big Brother because I'm just not going to play that way. And that's fine. Like things adapt, things change. That's great. Like I don't have a problem with it. It just is a different time. And so I think 10 years ago, absolutely not. I think that was ridiculous. Now, when we talk about Big Brother, I think it's hard. And I truly don't think anyone is actually playing an honest and loyal game. We saw this in Survivor 48. Like you think you're being loyal. At minimum, though, you're only being loyal to the people that you have decided are worth being loyal to. Because in order to protect those people and be loyal to them, you have to then, even at base level, you have to hide things or not be fully truthful. Even if you're not full on lying to other people, you're not being 100% truthful. And so when that's your perspective, and then you walk into a final tribal council or you walk into the finale of Big Brother and you say, I played an honest and loyal game with everyone, it's not true. So I think it is a game that can be more successful now than it could have, and Big Brother 2. I think you still have to have an ability to own it and to explain it in a way that makes sense. Like I was honest and loyal to the core group of people that I decided on day 2, and here's how I did that. And here's how everything I did tied back to this group of people, which, again, not to get too much into Survivor, but I thought Eva did a really good job at Final Tribal Council for Survivor 48 in being able to dictate those things, and Joe didn't. And it's why, jury speeches and why your final presentation matters so much, because if you can't explain all of the things that you've done, why should someone reward you for it? What is there? If you don't even know, why would these people be able to explain the same thing? So I think 10 years ago, absolutely not. Playing an honest and loyal game was dumb, and a dumb thing to try to advocate for. I think now,
Agreed.
depending on the makeup of your cast and the makeup of the jury, I think it probably is more likely to be a path of success than being all out cutthroat. You just have to be able to figure out what the balance of explaining yourself is at the end.
Well, I think someone that perfectly encompasses that middle ground between playing that honest, faithful game and also being able to lie and distract was Chelsea from Big Brother 26. I heard jury management at the end when they're doing the jury questions, in my opinion, is one of the best we've seen on a Big Brother finale night. Because she was able to look at people in the eyes that she sent out, justify it, and make them feel okay about it, while also
And I
maintaining her loyalty to those she made promises to.
I truly think she changed at least one mind. I think Angela was walking in there ready to vote for Mackenzie. And I
Agreed.
truly think the way that Chelsea explained herself and the way that she was able to articulate her game and her experience, at minimum, changed one person's mind. So I think that's key, and we still see that now.
Yeah, I agree. Something else that happens in these final days of Big Brother 2 that, and it's again something I completely forgot about, is they brought in those Survivor players into the house for a
You're
night.
so right.
And the Survivor players, and I apologize if I'm screwing up any of these names because I haven't watched their seasons of Survivor. Gervais Peterson, Sue Hawk, Alicia Calloway, and Jeff Varner. And they come into the house and like hang out with them, give them advice. They do like a couple comps with them. They spend the night. I was like, what? I was like, this is strange. This is not something they would ever do now. I feel like.
No, absolutely not. How
They would be
bizarre.
right, because these people watch the show. I feel like they are in Big Brother modern. Well, at least probably in the last 16 years has been really careful about like bringing outsiders into the house and stuff like that, because they don't want any advantages to come out. But I liked the idea of this, but I kind of hated it at the same time. I understand it was a crossover that probably was really great at the time.
At the time.
Yeah, because Survivor's huge. Big Brother season 2 is becoming massive. So I imagine it was really appreciated for the time. I felt like it took up a little bit too much screen time during really pivotal gameplay. Like this is the final five, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Final
think
four.
this is probably what evolved into things like the twist of Pandora's box when Rachel comes back into the house for 12 hours, or like those types of things. I think probably evolved from this at some point of like, how do we cause a disruption? How do we bring things in that form? I think you're right. At the time, in terms of a crossover of Survivor, it probably was more helpful to Big Brother because I think Survivor was, I mean, now, but even then was more successful in how to hire viewership. And so probably brought in to them. If I'm the house guest, though, like I am very confused at what's happening at Final Five. You're like locked in
Final
trying
four,
to win this game and win $500,000. And you just have these random people coming to do like a summer camp sleepover. What is
Right.
this?
And also, I mean, they happen to know them or whatever, but I also was thinking like, what if they had no idea? Like, what if they didn't watch Survivor? Like, none of them watched Survivor. Like, what would have happened? But, yeah, that wasn't the case. I felt like there was a lot of conversation about like what's harder, Survivor or Big Brother, and maybe that's what made it have a weird taste in my mouth because like the Survivor people were very much like, this is like the Hilton, and it was like, okay, we get, yeah. Like, I want to know how Dr. Will is going to get out of his like latest shenanigans. I want to see, you know what I mean? It was just such a big week for them to drop this in because Hardy and Nicole are now having to like go against each other a little bit and campaign against each other. And then right in the middle, they're like, boop, here's some Survivor
Also, the
people.
irony The irony of this final five, this final four being exciting and engaging, and where we're at now, 20 something years later, where the final six, final five is typically miserable and is a slog to try to get through. And they would
Yeah,
never do something this fun at the end now when it probably could use some life into it
it
at that point.
does. It
They're like,
really
instead,
does.
let's do a traumatizing double eviction to go from 7 to 5 every single season and suck whatever life is left. Instead of doing something like this, like I do back then, absolutely not necessary. Now, do more unhinged things at the end because
Agreed.
it's
Fully
needed.
agree. I feel like now the way Big Brother is set up is that it's all action in the beginning. They're always adding these 6 week long twists that happen in the very beginning. But then once those twists are over and it returns to normal Big Brother, it's just dwindling down.
Right.
And these twists that they add in a lot of the times encourage giant alliances. For example, Battle of the Block, BB16, you could only survive that season if you had a massive alliance because you had to put up 4 people on the block every single week. In order to not get blood on your hands, you need at least half the house in an alliance. And so we see these steamroll alliances that are being bred from these like early twists in the season. And then the end is just that giant alliance picking people off until the very end. It loses steam. People are losing energy. Add more like weird shit at the end. Not game changing twists, obviously, but like, yeah, add in some spice, you know?
Do something.
At least BB17 had them leave the house for a second to go see Ariana Grande in concert. You know what I mean? Like,
They really milked that for all it was worth.
they really, really did. So yeah, Survivor players come, and then they go. They did do that cute little comp though, where, and this is stuff I wish they would do more. Where the house guests had to unscramble some words and stuff like that to come up with like a website name, like URL, so that they could see what America was saying about them online. And I thought that was cute.
Or even if they brought back and didn't do it as like a real comp, you did it as something else, like the guess the headline comp from when you've been in the house over the summer. Like if they didn't want to bring that back as a veto or HOH or whatever, like if you just bring it back as something to do, it's like sometimes at the very end, back in Big Brother 2, they got cards, they got things all the time. Sometimes at the very end, they'll throw them like a bone and be like, here's a deck of playing cards or like something else to do. Have
Yeah.
them do that. And I don't make the reward like a couple $1,000 or something like when they do Yankee swap for veto something because I think that comp is so fun to watch. Do
Yeah.
something like that that's engaging, keeps them engaged versus like, okay, well, we just have to sit here for the next week.
Yeah, because that's what it kind of turns into, right? Is that it's mostly, and it also encourages, and again, something that happens in later seasons with these big alliances is that you get to the final 4 or 5, right? But the majority alliance just hangs out with themselves and they completely isolate themselves from the remaining house guests. Like, and it's just like, it's hard to watch sometimes, like the isolated house guests who don't have anything just sitting around for a week, while they're buddying up in the HOH. And
We missed something? Because it.
Who?
Me and Sheree. Because we feel like there's 3 people over here and 2 people over here, and we're just kind of the irrelevant factors in the house right now.
What do you mean? Did I say something? Or something?
No, that's the problem. It's almost like you guys are your own little crew, and you're the final 3, and you're just waiting to negate the 2 other bodies.
And it really, BB2, like that, the final 5, and they're throwing everything out. That structure needs to come back to modern day Big Brother to keep it engaging.
And I talk about this all the time. I think part of the solution to that is changing the structure from consistently doing double eviction from 7 to 5 to they've done it a few times, 8 to 6 or 9 to 7. I truly think that's the answer because think about last season, you lost Angela and Leah, who were characters back to back. The year before, you lost America and Blue back to back, people who were bringing things to the show, like whether or not how you feel about them as game players, like it's bringing things that are engaging. Double evictions obviously didn't exist in Big Brother 2, so they didn't need to do things like that. But I think the timing and recognizing that the end is typically a slog to try to get through and watch. So what can you be doing to make it more entertaining? I've never taken the time to sit and look. Viewership numbers have got to die off towards the end. They have to, because there's
sure they
literally
do.
nothing happening at the very end. So 2 definitely was the blueprint for how do we keep these people engaged. And I don't know at what point Big Brother 2 got renewed for season 3, because I know a lot, when Julie Chen has talked about 1, she's like, we're midway through the season and we're like, we don't even know if they're going to let us finish the season because it was doing so poorly, because that format just did not jive in America. She was like, we didn't know if they were going to let us finish out the season. Like, we didn't even know if there was going to be an actual ending. And so I imagine in 2, they're probably like, how do we make sure we maintain these viewership numbers through the end? Because we want to make sure that CBS allows us to do this again, versus now, like, they've pretty much got it on lock and they know that they don't have to do a lot to be able to stay where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just solved the problem of modern day Big Brother. I think we figured it out.
Just need to ask us for tips.
Obviously.
Let me just be production.
Also, super funny moment is, it's Hardy and Nicole on the block. Will is the only vote that matters. They pull him into the diary room and they're like, do you want to deliver this in person or through here? And he was like, in person. And he like marches out of the diary room and immediately starts monologuing, right? He's like, house guests, like da da da. And Julie is in the background being like, Will, not yet. Will, not wait, Will.
Things out.
Will, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, my bad. And so he has to like pause while Julie is like, yeah, so Will is going to announce like in person, blah, 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 blah.
Also that they kind of let him decide. Wild.
Right. It's only because it was him. You know what I mean? And they were like,
because they had no precedent. They're like, right. I don't know, what do you think? Which at this point, they had to have been locked into the fact that Will knew he was making good TV and they're letting him do what he wants in that perspective, because they can tell he's a showman and whatever he wants to do is probably going to be what makes the best television. So they don't care.
Yeah. And so he monologues. He's like, it's all for Shannon. And then, he gets rid of Hardy. And Hardy takes it like a champ and he's Superman, But something else I forgot. So Hardy leaves. We have 3 left now, right? So that means the final HOH broken into 3 different comps. I forgot that Will wins the first HOH comp. So he does technically have a comp win under his belts.
I don't know how that counts because it's technically like a part 1. So you didn't win a comp because they call it part 1, part 2, and then whoever is part 3 is the winner of the HOH. So I don't know, like, in records how it's depicted, because a lot of these comp beast record people didn't make the final 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it counts as in the books as being a win. But I also forgot that because it just doesn't feel like that's a real thing that happened.
Right. Like, yeah, it really doesn't feel like a real thing at all. And I'm also really shocked that he didn't throw it, because at this point, Will knows he's going to final 2. There's absolutely no way Nicole is taking Monica and Monica is taking Nicole. He knew, like, the second Monica won HOH, he knew this game was over, right? So I'm actually really shocked that he didn't throw that first one. And Nicole is too. Like, later she's like, oh, now you're not throwing comps.
Now we learned how to play. Wild.
Yeah. But they do have that conversation where she's like, I know what you're going to do. I know that you are going to throw this final HOH so that I'm the bad guy. And Will is pretty much like, yeah, probably. Like, girl. I also would like to say, so after Will wins the first HOH, the next episode is there's a disclaimer that says this episode was videotaped before the terrorist attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C. The house guests have since been informed of these events. So we still do have a full episode where they're not knowing about September 11th, but it's coming. So let's get into Nicole and Monica's fight. Also, I think something that contributed to Nicole losing this season was the fact that, like, she's just like has, of everyone in the house, had the most microaggressions towards Monica, in my opinion. Like, they have fought about race on like a couple of different issues. This issue is Nicole was tan and was like, I look like a light-skinned black girl. And Monica was like, that is like not appropriate to say. And like, here's why. And then in Nicole's diary room, she's like, you can't say anything to Monica without her like freaking out, as Monica's just sitting there being like, yeah, so like in, the community, like blah, blah, it's like very lightly, but like, and then it pans to Nicole, who's like getting offended, and it's like, oh, are you offended? Like, and it's like, oh my God, girly.
Which is crazy. We're so far removed and so many years later, and that's still happening. I mean, like, that was Taylor Hale's experience in the house. We saw it to an extent with T-Core when a situation was happening in Big Brother 26, and T-Core had to be the one that was like, it's actually just fine, which is not her responsibility, but also a wild that it's not shocking, not surprising, but wild that is still occurring to Black women in the house. And that is something that they still experience when it was happening literally in 2001 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Justice for Devon, who cannot seem to look at a Big Brother season without the house guest being completely inappropriate towards her. Cannot stand it. Also, I know this is something I kind of wish they would do more of, is Will won the chance to like live chat, and I say that like with huge quotation marks, live chat with viewers and have them like ask him questions. And we all love, as Big Brother fans, we all love Dr. Will and appreciate his contributions to Big Brother. But like you said before, that was not the audience's like viewership at the time. And so he was getting roasted, just torn apart. People asking if he has a soul, if he experiences empathy, if he's like, evil. Like, people are like, how are you this like terrible in real life? Is this for show? And I was like, wow. Not what I expected.
Dr. Will in a Big Brother 1 format is gone by like week 3 max.
Literally, yeah.
If America's voting, the way that we remember him now is obviously much kinder than he was interpreted at the time.
Do you think a lot of that? Now, he does become more likable over the season, I feel like, but do you think the I guess newer found respect for him came after All Stars?
Yes, and I see it in my comments all the time on TikTok when I'm posting videos. Like, I posted my tier ranking video of winners, and I said that I didn't think Will was a top 5 winner. And I got a couple questions of people being like, are you ranking on their whole resume or just their winning game? And I'm like, their winning game. And they're like, oh, okay, then I understand. So when I say that about, but I'm also like, he didn't win 7. So right. I am of the belief that like, you cannot be an all-time great in that level of category if you didn't win. And so like, did he play more skillfully? Yes. But I'm also someone who's frustrated by the concept of pre-gaming, and they took pre-gaming to an unhinged extent that it doesn't even happen now by fake calling people and pretending to be CBS from their hotel rooms, whatever. But I think that his game, when people talk about Will as a legend and Will as the greatest to ever do it, I think they're not talking about his winning game. I think that's in the back of their mind. But what people are referencing when I see them talking about it is All Stars. And I'm like, right, but he didn't win.
Yeah, so that's confusing to me, because I would actually argue that his game in season 2 is significantly more impressive than his game in All Stars. Like, I understand why people that All Stars is like one of the best seasons, like the first All Stars. I mean, come on. But like, so I understand that, but him being really funny and silly with Mike Boogie and entertaining doesn't inherently make him good at that game. I mean, He is good at that game, but I would definitely argue strategically season 2 was bigger. And also, there are more than one Big Brother winners who have been on 2 seasons who have never been evicted from the house. Like Dan and Cody. They were on 2 seasons. They've never been evicted from the Big Brother house. So, like, I feel like I don't know if I want to say this about Cody, but, like, in a way, that's more of a testament to how good you are at the game than Dr. Will.
Yeah.
On September 11th in 2001, there were massive terrorist attacks across the US. The Big Brother houseguests might possibly be the last people in the world to know.
The outside world by the producers of this show through the diary room, and the news hit Monica especially hard. Her cousin Tamitha worked at the World Trade Center, and as of this taping 4 days later, she remains unaccounted for.
The September 11th episode of Big Brother is quite possibly the most impactful episode of the series, even 24 years later. It really emphasizes the mission of Big Brother, which is real people living in a real way, playing a real game. And so the nation being able to see the news being broken to them for the first time, especially Monica, whose cousin worked at the trade center, and they did know that she went to work that morning and that nobody was able to get a hold of her. That level of vulnerability is overwhelming in this scene. Like, how would one even process the magnitude of this level of event in United States history? And yet we're watching this in real time. We're watching someone hear the news, be concerned about their loved ones and the nation, and not even have the full context to what is going on. This is a level of realness that doesn't really exist in modern day reality TV. Not to mention the scene that follows, which is all three of them learning about the news and talking about it, and Will gently touching Monica's shoulder. Like, this is the one time in the entire season where we're not looking at competitors but human beings. They're not thinking about the game in this moment. They're not thinking about the last HOH. They're thinking about what is lost for the nation and themselves and their own anxiety and fears about it. And I really think that this was a huge testament to the likability of Big Brother during this time. Felt relatable. They were having the same conversation around this picnic table as everyone else in the US was having. So I imagine it brought people great comfort to be able to watch this and see what they were going through, knowing that they were going through the same thing. It also gives fans an insight into how strong Monica is, because she fought her way to the end to this point, won the most crucial HOH of the season, and then got this news that it's quite possible that she lost a family member in the most tragic event on American soil, and she's still in the house, existing, playing the game, fighting for what she needs to do. And that is an honest testament to just how great Monica was in BB2.
Me here, right? Focus everything they got there, because I'm going to be okay.
Wow. All right. I went on a side tangent there. Anyways, final HOH. Will wins the first one. Nicole wins the other two. And is final HOH. And I don't blame her for the decision that she makes as final HOH, because honestly, I think she just would have lost to both of them.
Yeah, I think she was between a rock and a hard place.
I was going to say I think Monica's a more deserving winner, but maybe I don't know if that's really true.
I think her perspective was probably like, I know I have no shot against Monica. Monica's great. Everybody loves her, whatever. But like, I could pitch, and she did, the like, Will is truly evil, has wronged everyone, has like been horrible, and you should not give him the money. Whereas like, you can't really make that argument with Monica. Like, what ground does she have to stand on?
No way.
And so
because Monica played the game, I feel like that Nicole claimed she was playing.
Right. And I think she had the awareness to recognize that. And so Will probably was her best bet in having any chance to be able to actually advocate, you know?
I agree. I definitely agree. All right, let's get to jury. It's I almost wish they would have given the jurors questions to like specific ones to ask, because the amount of like fluff questions there were is so different from like the competitiveness of Big Brother we see later on. Like, jury questions later on in Big Brother are like, explain to me in absolute detail how you made this move to this move to this move. Their questions were, Krista asked Nicole if she believed in God.
Is that really that different from what we might have gotten the last couple of seasons? I feel like that absolutely could have happened. It didn't, but it feels like the questioning was in someone's mind.
I was like, that's the question after all this. Boogie both asked like throwaway questions. I wasn't as annoyed by that because he knew he was voting for Will. Everyone knew he was going to vote for Will. There was nothing Nicole was going to say that changed his mind there. So Nicole's answers for the jury cemented her loss to me because while I was watching season 2, I was like, Nicole has a pretty decent resume. And like what exactly was it? And it was exactly what we talked about. They're asking her about her moves and she's like, I'm loyal and honest, and they're rolling their eyes into the back of their heads. Like she's self-righteous throughout the whole thing. It's very much like Will bad, me good. And the jurors are very much like, yeah, Will is an asshole, but at least we know exactly what he's going to do. He just tells you like, and if he lies, he's like, I'm a liar, I'm a thief, I'm manipulative. Like, they respected that a lot more than Nicole, almost trying to see above all of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, she was not reading the room at all. And Will was not even taking these questions seriously. Like, if she had made a decent argument for herself, she could have easily walked away with the money. He was throwing out, like, random bullshit. He's like, I'm not, Bunky's like, all right, Will, like, how much money are you going to give to charity? And he's like, well, none. Next question, like, he... And him, playing it off so charming and funny, they're laughing and stuff. And then every time she talks, they're like, oh my God, this wet blanket. And it's like, Nicole, read the room. What you're saying is like not clicking with them. And she should have realized that with like the first question. Cause like all of their questions were like, hey, Will, you still a shitbag? And he's like, yep. And then they're like, Nicole, like you said you were loyal to me, but then you did this, this, and this. And she was like, I was loyal to you. And it's like, girl.
We are presenting you with evidence that proves otherwise. Please elaborate. And she said, no thanks.
Yeah, that jury was just like, it was kind of a letdown, honestly, like, this was a very personal game to a lot of people. So you would think they were going to come in like real hot, and they did a little bit. I mean, I guess in their defense, September 11th did just happen. So like, maybe Big Brother wasn't like the very top of their minds.
Well, and
anymore.
that's, when we interviewed Hardy, he told us that they all came back like on one plane. Like CBS sent a plane basically to collect, because, at the time jurors weren't sequestered, they were home. CBS basically, because commercial flights were so difficult to come by at that point, because it was like literally a week later, CBS sent a plane to like go collect them in like a little caravan, and then they all got there. So they had a lot going on for sure. And so their mindset was probably not the same as when people in later years are sequestered in the jury house. All you really have to do is keep talking about the game because you haven't gone back to real life yet.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good point. I didn't really think about it until we were like talking just now, and I was like, well, maybe they would have had better jury questions if we weren't, facing a national crisis that was directly affecting people's relatives.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe I should give them some slack on that.
Do you want to talk about how unhinged the fact that they got to kick out 2 jury votes was? Because literally, what even? That is the thing that I go back and look at Big Brother 2 and I'm like, truly, why? What? For what reason?
You know what? I thought about this a lot because I was like, would I like that? And the difference is they weren't sequestered, so nullifying their votes is kind of like whatever. But imagine being sequestered for jury and then they like nullify your vote. That's when I would be pissed. But yeah, truly, do you remember if they do that for season 3?
I don't think so. Let me check. I
don't remember that ever being a thing. And I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, oh, I didn't. So for those listening and watching, the finale of season 2 of Big Brother, Dr. Will and Nicole were allowed to choose one jury member. And at this time, the jury was everyone who was in the house from like the very first week, and they got to nullify their votes. And so Will chose to nullify Bunky, and that was a good choice because Bunky definitely voted for Nicole. And Bunky kind of tells Will off during this and is like, "You're shallow, you're egotistical, like I just cannot stand how you played this game." And then of course Nicole nullified Shannon's vote. And it's like,
So it was only done in 2. BB Canada 3 did it one time as well, but the only time it's ever happened in US Big Brother was Big Brother 2, so they never did that again. But also,
yeah.
It's crazy to think about Will picking Bunky, which, ended up being the right a correct choice, versus Hardy, who he had 100% certainty was not going to be a vote for him. Like, I would love to know what was going through his brain that he was like, this feels like it's probably not for me, versus like someone who has explicitly told you, I will not be voting for you, and that that's what's going to happen. Like, choosing not to nullify Hardy's vote makes no sense to me. I mean, it worked out for him, obviously, but
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Like, Bunky, I feel like, is definitely more of a wild card in terms of who he would be voting for than Hardy. Especially because Nicole voted Bunky out. Yeah, that's a good point. Damn, I wish Dr. Will, if you're listening and you're watching, can you just casually drop in the comments why you nullified Bunky's vote? Thanks.
crazy.
Okay, so the voting. Oh my God! Actually, before the voting happens, the unhinged monologue that Dr. Will gives. Like, I found it hilarious, and it's iconic, obviously. But like, I would have had a hard time voting for him to win if that was the monologue that he gave.
Okay, evicted house guest. I can stand before you today and I can talk about apologies, I can talk about remorse, I can talk about regrets, but there's 2 reasons I'm not going to. 1, I think at this point it'd be ingenuine, and 2, that's just not me. I know some people out there are not happy with the way this show went down, and they blame that on me. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you're not happy with this show, maybe you're not happy with reality-based TV in general. If you're not happy with reality-based TV, maybe you're not happy with, as the name suggests, reality. So if you're not happy with me, it just might be yourself you're not happy with. So don't place all the blame of this on me. Everyone needs to look within themselves. When we came in this house that first night, it was all smiles. Everyone held up a glass, we put some champagne in it, and we had a toast for the establishment of friendship on a firmer and more lasting basis. Did you all do that? Look around the room. You all need to learn to love each other, and we need to all get along a lot better. On that note, I bid you a fond farewell, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Like, I think it's cute to not take things too seriously, but like, for me as a jury voter in a game like this, where I do think Nicole played a pretty decent game, I would kind of look at that as almost like a slap in the face to those who really wanted it, right? Because he was making a mockery out of reality TV.
Well, and I think your point too earlier about a sequestered jury versus not a sequestered jury probably has to do with it too, because you're right. Like, if I'm a juror and I've spent another 6 weeks or whatever, like, locked away and can't have access to my family with no benefit at the end, like, I know I'm not winning money. I just have to do this thing. And so I'm taking it seriously, because literally what else do I have to do? Versus
Right.
like when you went home and then you just got to watch the season like a normal person, and then you come back for the finale episode, I guess, and you like contribute. I think that's probably a lot different dynamic. And this was the first jury vote ever. This was the first real season of Big Brother. I think that they maybe didn't. I don't think they all were thinking about the game in the way that like Hardy was, and
Yeah.
even Will. I don't think they were all in that gaming mindset. And so for them, it was like, haha, we did a fun reality show. And so the person who seemed to be like a character, I think in their minds probably
Got
was
it.
part of it. Realistically. But your point earlier about sequestered versus not juries, I think that is also a good point, because if you've been locked up still, I would take it much more seriously.
Do you know, and maybe anyone on TikTok can answer this too, but early seasons of Survivor, did they sequester the jury for those? Or was that another one that they like did later or flew out like the first like few seasons around 2001?
I think the jury. So in older pre-new era Survivor, I know, I don't know how far back this goes. They would do the way they do now, like all the pre-jury people go to Ponderosa, go to this hotel on the island or wherever, before it was in Fiji. Then when they're done, they used to take them, when the jury started coming in, they used to take the pre-jurors on like a vacation. Like Kelly Wentworth has talked about a lot. They like went on a trip. You like get to go on a trip because they don't want you to go home yet, but like they don't want you where the jurors are. So you go on like a 2-week trip or whatever. And then all the other jurors come back. But I don't know when they started doing that.
Yeah, I guess like, and also this is really more of a question just for season 1 of Survivor, because I'm pretty sure Survivor like season 1 only came out a year before Big Brother season 2. Which is why I was also kind of surprised that they had Survivor people into the house, because like that season had just dropped before Big Brother. So I want to kind of know more about how Big Brother and Survivor have influenced each other over time.
I think it's funny to think about, like, let's talk about 2 icons from each series. Okay, Rob Cesternino auditioned for Big Brother. He didn't try out for Survivor. And Danielle did not try out for Big Brother. She tried out for Survivor originally. And Rob Cesternino applied for Big Brother because he saw Danielle Reyes on Big Brother and said, I can play like that. And that's why Rob Cesternino applied for Big Brother. And they said, actually, we think you'd be better on Survivor. And so that's how we got to where we are. But at the time, those 2 audiences were so ingrained with each other that it makes sense. Especially then, you had a similar premise. You're probably trying to tie these 2 audiences together. But culturally, like, I think the impact of them starting at the same time is wild. Again, with that as the example, like, we wouldn't have Danielle Reyes if it wasn't for Survivor, and we wouldn't have Rob Cesternino if it wasn't for Danielle Reyes being on Big Brother, which was an accident anyways.
That's wild. That's interesting. Okay. That's adding some context here, but obviously Big Brother 2 is not what changes the jury sequester situation. That is something we're going to talk about in so much detail for season 3. I mean, I think when it comes to like the lore behind Big Brother season 3, it's all about the jury, right? Like, and how that worked. But yes, the winner of Big Brother season 2 in a vote of 5-2 is Dr. William Kirby.
4-1. Well, no, I guess 5-2 is because it was 9. Yeah. Okay. Which
because they're missing Justin, because Justin was expelled and not welcome back for the reunion or for the final. So the people that voted were Autumn, Krista, Hardy, Boogie, Kent, Cheryl, and Monica. Unless I'm missing someone, but I don't think I am. And then of course Nicole and Will are in the final 2. And that concludes season 2 of Big Brother. We've talked banner planes, the first HOH, the first pawn. I would also argue that Will is the first like perma pawn, as in just always keeping a warm seat next to the actual target. We have the beginning stages of Mike Boogie's run on Big Brother. A lot of good, and then of course 9/11.
Also thinking about Will continuously being a permapawn and everyone next to him going home, being the precedent for Angela and Big Brother 26 being a permapawn and everybody else next to her goes home.
Angela would have won earlier seasons Big Brother. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
Truly.
What a queen. Oh, I was going to ask. So I wanted to actually wrap up with a couple of questions.
Go for it.
I got a couple of questions for you. Just things I was thinking about. It's a little game called Pick One. Okay. So you can only choose one. Right. Pick one person that you would take from season 2 and have on modern day Big Brother.
This is like a little bit of a cop-out answer. I think Hardy would play much better in modern Big Brother. I think the way the game is suited now, I think Hardy would do really well.
Agreed.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I feel. I mean, we saw Mike Boogie play modern Big Brother. Nobody needed that again.
Yeah, no one needs to see Mike Boogie on Big Brother anymore. Was he in BB 22 All Stars? I can't remember. I
No,
always get that
he had
confused with
his
14,
legal
I
trouble
think.
by then. He was in
That's what I
14, and
thought.
then
What I
the stuff
thought.
with Will and everything happened later on. Yeah, so I think Hardy. We'll go with Hardy.
I think I'm gonna go Monica.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she deserves a better chance. Um, and I think she would do pretty well on Modern Big Brother. I really do.
I agree.
Okay. Pretend Zingbot went into the Big Brother season 2 house. What Zing, like whose Zing would you want to see the most?
Mike Boogie's, because I think it would be like at the rapping, like they would make fun of him, like modern day, they would say like he was a SoundCloud rapper. Like I don't know what it would have been then, but I think they would have made fun of Mike Boogie rapping, which I agree with because why was that ever a thing? That is what I think. I think Zingbot would thrive looking at Mike Boogie.
I think so too. Yeah, Mike Boogie never got to experience Zingbot, did he? Because they didn't have him in season 7, and he left in BB 14 before Zingbot got there.
Crazy.
Tough beans for you, Mike Boogie. And then finally, my last question here is what aspect of season 2, theme wise, twist wise, game wise, anything, would you like to incorporate in BB 27, let's say?
Yeah, that's easy. Food comps. I think I posted a video
Really?
today. I think have-nots are stupid.
Have-nots are stupid.
Conceptually, have-nots are not dumb. They're dumb when you don't show them on the episodes. I have quite a few people who are in my comments and stuff and talk about that they started watching Big Brother like in the modern era, so like 18, 19, 20, and they don't even know what have-nots are. They just randomly catch people talking about slop or randomly catching
Just
whatever.
yeah, it's useless.
Because you went 11 to 15 having it be a competition, and then it was a huge part of the show, and I'm fine with that. I think if you're making it part of the show, but if you don't feel like you have time to put it in the edit, it's not worth doing because then the audience doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Everyone's in a bad mood. I am of the belief that feed them so that they have more energy for strategy. It was like when we saw
Agreed.
Janky World this week and people who only watched the episodes, or that last year, people who only saw the episodes were like, that was so fun. And I'm like, because they had to work to make it seem like that. Live feeds and whatever crap they were feeding them, pizza and ice cream or whatever, they all just laid around all day because they couldn't move because they felt so unwell. I am of the belief,
Agreed.
like, give them energy and sustenance to be able to do things. And taking that away with have-nots for no benefit, like other than psychological torture, and even if you wanted to keep the cold showers and keep the room whatever, like somebody said, I think the room is nice because it forces people to mix up who they're in rooms with at night, which changes conversations. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
I could agree with that.
and Quinn from Big Brother 26 was commenting on one of my videos, and he was like, I as a week one have not last year, like I think the room is at least worth keeping because it creates like an interesting dynamic. But I think bring back
like
food
trauma
comps.
bonding with people in
Yeah,
there.
bring back food comps. Bring that being something fun. Get rid of have-nots in its place, and
Agreed.
have more of those type of comps.
So I was never a fan of food comps just because, back in the day, it would take up almost an entire episode. 'Cause they were like big and outlandish, and like I understood the point, but I fully agree with you. I'm like over have-nots. They stopped becoming like a strategic part of the game a long time ago, where people used to barter about like not being have-nots and stuff. It doesn't happen anymore. It barely shown on the episodes. It's not creating new discourse. It's not adding anything. I fully agree. Yeah, and even if they need to just like reform it, right? Because like I don't love not feeding people to reality shows. Survivor and Big Brother are like the only ones that do that, right? Like the traders,
Also,
they're eating fine, and it's very
we're getting
entertaining.
we're getting 90-minute episodes every week.
Yeah.
What are you going to put there? Because
Right.
it's got to be something. Do that. That or even just have it be a segment about have-nots and have it be something so that people, again, new fans don't know what it is. They're like,
Yeah.
why are they grumpy? Why are these people complaining about taking a cold shower? And I'm like, there's
Well,
just
and that's
zero.
like what they hope for with have-nots, right? Is to like get them to be emotional, right? So like not having a hot shower, not sleeping on a comfortable bed. You know what else does that? Being away from your friends and family for 3 months, playing a very stressful high social game. Like they'll
Also,
get
like,
there.
okay,
They're gonna be emotional.
do more comps with punishments if that's your thing. Like, do
Yes, yes. You know what comp I wish they would do? I haven't seen it in a long time. And I don't remember what it's called. I'm really bad at comp names. But it's the one where it's for the veto, I believe, where you have to bet on things. So you like shaving your head. Like, okay, if you're willing to shave your head at this point, like you get X amount of points, right? Being this, they do this in BB7, actually, this comp, because Danielle Reyes has to go in isolation for 24 hours. Those are fun because, and then while she was in there, she was all mad at Dr.Will and she started to realize what they were doing. You know what I mean? Like
and
those
they
have
know
good.
they being production and CBS know what comps and what things make people the most excited. Like everyone loves the Yankee swap veto. Like that is what
Yes,
people
yes.
enjoy. So why that obviously finds success. Like do more things like that where there are different punishments that come from it, different prizes and privileges. Like have that be more of it because
Yeah.
you're going to do comps anyways. Like at least make it something that is fun. Because a lot of the comps now, like that is my least favorite part of watching the entire thing. So
I agree. Well, that concludes season 2. So much to go over. And then we're going to be starting on Big Brother season 3. One of my all-time favorite seasons.
truly.
Despite the end, but that's fine. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I was going to say something else, and now I got all upset again about the end of season 3. Oh, yes. So for those watching right now on my little TikTok feed, let me know who you'd want to see on here. I'm going to start emailing and messaging BB guests from season 3. So let me know your top choices on who to hit up first. I make 0 promises. But yeah, it should be fun. But also, don't say Danielle Reyes. There's no way I can't get Danielle Reyes.
Also, she's like, I'm going back into hiding for a little bit after she
Yeah,
finished
I
her Trader's Exit press. She's like, it's gonna be a while before you guys see me.
Totally fair, Danny. Totally fair.
I'm like, yep, understood.
All right. Well, we will see you soon, and then keep listening. We have a bonus episode coming out next week with Hardy Hill, Big Brother's very own Superman. He's going to walk us through his season, his biggest regrets, his biggest power moves, and everything you might want to know about him. So signing off, thank you again for listening, and have a great day.